The way I see it, New Zealanders pride themselves on being resilient. But we all know that's not always the case, and anyone can go through tough times. In many ways, though, it's the struggles we go through that actually shape us as people. I'm Scotty Stevenson, and I'm about to meet some incredible Kiwis to have some meaningful, revealing, inspiring, and hopefully helpful conversations about their own day-to-day challenges and what it's like to come through the other side of mentally tough times and get back on the up. Welcome to The Upside, brought to you by AIA Vitality.
So Graham Henry, welcome along to The Upside. Am I allowed to call you Ted?
Yeah, that'll be good, Scotty, that'll be good. I know you're a sumo, can I call you Scotty?
You can call me Scotty or Sumo, I don't mind, up to you. You can call me whatever you like.
Scotty's easier.
Scotty's easier. We go back a fair way now, don't we? You and me.
We do.
But I don't go that far back because your life stretches back a long way.
Well, thank you for reminding me.
I wasn't going to call you the old dog, but certainly a hound of advanced years. How does that sound?
Yeah, I'm late 70s, late middle age, but no, life's great.
If you don't mind, I want to take you down a little bit of memory lane, because most people know you as Sir Graham Henry, former All Black coach, winner of the World Cup, and for all you did in the rugby sphere. But not so many people talk about what you did educationally, first as a teacher and then as a headmaster. What was it about teaching that attracted you to that profession?
Oh, I was a keen sportsman. Not that good, but keen. And I was a physical education graduate. And I wanted to teach physical education and coach sport, basically, because that was my passion. I had a big break. I got appointed to Auckland Grammar School with a fantastic leader in John Graham. And he virtually changed my life because he gave me opportunity to do the things that I love doing. In the 20 years that John Graham was the school principal, I think there was 36 people in that school went on to lead other schools in New Zealand. So he was a developer of others. And I don't know if he knew what he was doing. I do apologise, DJ, if that's not the case. But he grew people. And when you're in a growth environment, that's really special because you're getting better, other people are getting better. So I love that environment, and it was a hugely good foundation to go on from there.
He grew you and let you go to Kelston Boys High School, where you took up a deputy headmaster role, and then rather tragically, you had to step up very suddenly to the headmaster role. Did you feel you were ready for that responsibility?
Yep. In a word, I'd actually applied for other heads jobs at the time. And so, yes, I was ready. I thought I was ready, but that's never been a problem. So overconfident, perhaps, a wee bit, what's the word, bullish? Is that the right word? Over-bullish, maybe. But, I was always prepared to give things a go, and I guess that's part of the personality. Sometimes it gets you into trouble, as it did later on.
While you were the headmaster at Kelston Boys High School, you'd also embarked upon coaching representative rugby. And it's not exactly like the team you were coaching was low profile. In those days, the Auckland rugby team was by far and away the apotheosis of rugby in this country. They had the superstars. It was a tough competition. There was pressure on right from the start, and every game meant something. There's busy and then there's crazy busy. Did you ever feel like you had bitten off more than you could chew?
Yeah, look, I was busy, ridiculously busy. Up at 4 o'clock in the morning, analysing rugby or preparing something for the school, and so you just flat out. I probably need to be more empathetic than I was. So there'll be stories out there which I will not be proud of in my dealings with individuals. But you grow and you learn from those things. And I was busy running a school and running a rugby team when I didn't have the time for the niceties, perhaps. Not perhaps, for real.
Yeah.
And so you're all learning, aren't you? And that was massive learning for me. And it continued. I was a slow learner, so I continued to learn, hopefully.
When you say you continued to learn, is what you mean you continued to make mistakes?
Well, you're never perfect, are you? That's a terrible statement to make. You're nowhere near perfect. But you're doing your best of what you got and what you know and how you've been brought up and how you were coached and learning from others and so on. But no, I just tried to do my thing the best I could. And there was no blueprint really. So you're pushing the boundaries because you were getting almost into professional rugby. And it was pretty serious stuff. And you had personal pride and you had personal pride in the group of guys that you were coaching. Felt very privileged to be there and just wanted to do your best. The definition of your best by others might not be as good as what you thought it was. But, you can only do what you know and what you feel was right at the time. And being an educator, probably I should have known better, but being an educator, not being a full-time rugby person, I hadn't gone through that learning either. So it's just what I thought was right. And the people who were influential with me thought I was right, but they weren't the players. And so, yeah, you keep on learning. And I think that's what life's about.
You seek pressure, don't you? Because
I seek pressure?
You seek pressure jobs. You have to have something in you that drives you to walk towards it, that allows you to assess a situation and say, that's going to be a tough gig. I want it. Not everyone's built that way. That's it. Professional coaching, straight away, you're at the Blues. You're leading them. And then what's the job you want next? You want to be coaching the All Blacks.
Yeah.
You want to be in that job.
But the other people didn't think I was any
They
good.
did not. So what do? You take the next cab off the rank and off you disappear to Wales, a team that's battling, a team that, if there's any other that can possibly be compared to the passion that New Zealanders have for the All Blacks, it's the Welsh national rugby team. I mean, you were head first into the fire.
Yeah, probably impatient. I coached the Auckland side for 5-6 years and the Blues for 3 years. Yeah. And those two teams had won 2/3 of the championships over that period of time. And I thought, well, that's a reasonable base to go the next level. I wasn't ready, quite frankly. I thought I was. That Polish thing has never been a problem.
It started well. You were the great redeemer. What a tag.
Oh, yeah,
heavy
but the Welsh are very emotional people and they're not very logical at times. They just got carried away.
11 games straight.
Yeah, it was helpful. It took the pressure off. It was brilliant. And then I was asked to coach the British and Irish Lions, and bad decision. The Welsh Rugby Union said to me, "You're too much on your plate, Ted." And I said, well, I just want to coach the British and Irish Lions because it's a massive brand in the game and just up New Zealand rugby, so I can do this thing.
Yeah.
So my ego got in the way of the right decision, but in hindsight, it changed my life.
You took that team to Australia and it was such a fraught tour. In hindsight, various players acting up, speaking out, going behind the back of the team, criticising you publicly. The results didn't go your way. The series was lost to Australia. Here are you, the first coach from outside the home unions, coaching a British and Irish Lions team, it felt like you had stepped into the viper's nest. Was that the way it felt to you at times on that tour?
It was lonely. The other coaches, good men, no criticism, good men, were all English. And here was the New Zealander with these 4 or 5 English coaches who were the best in Europe at the time. England were the best team in Europe at the time. So it was, you didn't have close mates you're coaching with. And so you were a bit of a lone ranger, and that was my problem. I should have got tighter with them. But I'd always been a bit of a solo coach, if you like.
Yeah. Authoritarian, maybe?
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I could go along with that. So, yeah, that was the learning process. I should have got Martin Johnson and the senior players and the coaches tighter and worked together with them. And so that was the big learning. I tried to drive it myself without bringing them in as much as I should have. That tour and the aftermath of the tour was really difficult, but massive learning.
Talk to me about the end of that tour, because after you came back, things sort of went in a different direction for Wales under your watch. You say now that looking back, you were depressed. You were suffering from what you could only assume was depression because you didn't see anyone professionally to check it out.
No, it was a self-assessment.
Well, how did that manifest in you? What was it like?
Oh, I was just completely shot. I had just had no energy, no get up and go. I was just...
dead to the world, essentially.
Dead. And I just lay on the bed at home. Didn't want to talk to anybody, didn't want to do anything. It was the first time I hadn't been successful. And I think that was part of it. And I just given my heart and soul to everything. And I just didn't have any energy left. It was all gone. And so my assessment, my personal assessment of that, and I had some really good mates. David Pickering, who was the manager, him and his wife came round home and we sat round the kitchen table, Rowan and I, and them, and I just said, look, I can't do this anymore. I just didn't have any energy at all. I had 18 months of the contract still to go to the 2003 Rugby World Cup with Wales. But I knew I just had to get out and recharge.
What if you hadn't? What do you think might have happened if you hadn't made that decision?
I don't know. Can't answer that question. It was so obvious to me. It was so bad that Raywin was coaching the Welsh netball team at the time, and she was in Singapore, and I was home by myself. And I just couldn't stand it. So I jumped on a plane out of Heathrow and went to Singapore to see her and have a chat, as you do. And we went to Phuket. I think that's right, in Thailand.
Thailand, yeah.
I've got that right. And got my toes in the sand and swam and relaxed for a week. Made no difference. Came home, still the same. And that's when I knew I was dead. And, but, you know, the learnings from that were immense. The learnings as a coach, the learning about your mental health and how to respond to that was immense. I went home. Raywin stayed because she had a World Cup, Netball World Cup in Jamaica. And I came home, I went to Christchurch. We were living in Auckland, but I grew up, born and bred in Christchurch. My parents were still living at that stage. And I took them to Akaroa, where I used to go as a kid on holiday. And I ran the forest, top of Akaroa, every day. And it's amazing the connection between the physical and the mental. And I slowly became better and better and better. No pressure, no job, no nothing. Just get yourself right.
Rather big one, 2007.
Yeah.
All the best laid plans of mice and men, as they say. You'd been quite heavily criticised over 2006
Yeah,
and 2007.
I didn't notice.
Your famous rest and rotation policy. You had everything planned to a T, and sport being sport, or carts before horses, I'm not sure which, but Cardiff, which you knew so well. Goodness me.
Yeah, carts before horses. I don't like that statement.
Do you not?
No, we got complacent, no doubt. Like, there's a lot said about that game, and let's not go down there. Let's not make any excuses. Like, we just got ahead of ourselves. Hardest day of my life, I think.
Tell us about those hours.
Oh,
We've seen the pictures, the press conferences. McCaw, a young captain, who would go on to be the greatest of all time, but in those moments, I mean, I can't imagine the despair in that group and you personally, going back there again.
we were in the Welsh dressing shed, the home dressing shed. I remember after the game, there's not a murmur, not a sound. Everybody's in the dressing shed and there's not a word. I remember Daniel Carter sitting facing the back of his cubicle. Can't look at anybody. Gee, it was tough. And I remember the next day, all our family was there, our 3 kids and my daughter's boyfriend and others. And it was a very sober affair, and there was a few tears. This was the Sunday after the quarter final. And my daughter's boyfriend said to me, "Can I have a talk to you, Graham?" I said, "Oh yeah, Hamish, no problem." And we went away and he said, "I'd like to marry your daughter." I know it's probably not part of the show, Scotty, but it was just brought the whole thing back to reality. There was more to life than a rugby game. And they're married with 2 kids and he's a brilliant guy and I love her dearly. And so it was just, just a reality check.
Raewyn is your most beautiful wife, long-time partner, and
54 years in a couple of months.
54 years.
Unbelievable.
I'm going to talk...
She's a very resilient woman.
She must be. With your role being so public and your profile so high, and for her to always push you out the door and say, go get it, that has been amazing for you, I'm sure. And to know that you've got someone with you who shares in the rewards but also shares in the pain, how crucial has that been for Graham Henry?
Oh, it's beyond words probably. Now you made me all emotional. Thanks for that, Scotty. No, it's very hard to explain, but I guess it's about giving each other space to do your own thing and supporting each other. And she was much better at that than me. And the kids were great too, they never said to me, "We don't like this." And they would have felt the pressure. And why is your father doing these stupid things? But she was amazing. She's a better coach than me. Got greater empathy. Welsh girls loved her. They still contact her. Amazing. All Blacks don't contact me. I probably shouldn't say this, but she grew up in a rugby family. So her father was a rep player and a coach, and he played a long time for Canterbury, and her 2 brothers also, one was a junior All Black, other was a All Black trialist, both played a lot of representative rugby, and she was the only daughter, so she knew rugby. Wasn't the reason I married her. There was other attributes that I loved more dearly, but funny enough, when I was All Black coach, I'd fly around the country watching super games or provincial games. And I asked her to watch a couple of games. I don't have too many wives that do this sort of stuff. And I'd come home and say, "Did you watch the game?" Yeah. Who played well? She'd tell me. And I think some of it's about she knew, because she'd experienced it herself. She knew what it was about. And you get obsessed by it. And obsession's good. You know, I worry about the young kids today. They think obsession's a dirty word. Obsession's passion to do the best you can. You might not have a lot of ability, but you're pushing yourself, and it's an interesting life. Yeah, and I, but she was unbelievably good. You know, I told you the story about going to Singapore because I just needed to be with her and talk about it, because that's how that was the chemistry, you know.
So let me ask you this. So I first met you as a 20-something-year-old reporter. Still have the pleasure of knowing you today. You're a very different man than you were when I first met you. You've got a few less pressures on you these days. Are you proud of who you are and all you've done?
Yeah, look, for sure. You know, I feel very privileged to have been given that opportunity. You know, you look back and things could have been a lot different. So you're very thankful. When you go through some really difficult times, and I'm just pleased I found the right recipe to handle those difficult times, the right solutions. Obviously, you don't want to go through those things, but that's living. And you learn from that, and you get stronger, and hopefully you get better, and hopefully you survive. And I was lucky enough to be able to do those things, you know. But if you don't push yourself out there, it's a boring old life, I'd imagine.
Thanks, mate.
Pleasure. Thank you.
The Upside, brought to you by AIA Vitality. Find out more at aiavitality.co.nz.